Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the daily Manchester United podcast. My name is Niall Hannigan. I'm your host for this evening and I'm joined by Tom Cairns. Tom, how are you getting on?
Hello, Niall. Hello to everyone. Yes, after a cruel way to lose the win in that first leg, but at least we didn't lose. It was quite an entertaining one. A few brawls, players giving the ball away when they shouldn't have done. And just, I felt there was more to it than what we already saw. I felt that Lyon should have got more out of it than we did, but we took more of our chances, I thought, than Lyon did. So, but I think overall it was just like a bang average performance, but at least we came away with the result that we needed.
Yeah, obviously we're tuning in probably about 5-10 minutes after the game is finished here against Lyon. Absolute roller coaster of emotions. Like, I think I changed my mind of how that performance was about every 10 minutes throughout that game, and perfectly summed up with the last 10 minutes where we went from hero to zero, and which felt like a loss, I suppose, but good to get a draw, bring it back to Old Trafford, and hopefully we can get over the line. But yeah, let's go back to the start of the match. I suppose there's plenty to unpack. You mentioned the goals, you mentioned the brawls, you mentioned the performances that we're going to need to get into. I suppose this started even before the match with the pre-match comments from Onana and Nemanja Matic, with Onana having a bit of pop at Lyon initially, saying that United are probably the better team, and then Matic responding quite savagely, but I kind of rate it. I'm a big fan of Matic, to be honest. Kind of liked when he played for United, and came back and bit back at Onana about can't really say those things when you're probably one of the worst goalkeepers that United have had. Strong words, but what did you make of the prelude of the match between these two?
Well, to be honest, I think what we saw on the pitch was going to do the talking over what was being said. I don't pay attention too much in terms of what gets said before the match. I just focus on what the match speaks, really. But if I was Andre Onana and Nemanja Matic, I'd just focus on what we need to do for the match instead of just playing all sorts of mind games and doing what boxers do and just throw all sorts of insults at each other prior to the match. And then it's just... Yeah, you're footballers, you don't need to be getting involved in that. Just say that, you're looking forward to the game and you're hoping to win. That's all you can say. But going on to the match itself, it felt flat to begin with. But I think when, was it Almada who's got the goal for Lyon, the first one in the first half? Yeah, where it effectively went directly into the net, which Onana most certainly should have saved. And yeah, it really frustrated me so much, did that, because that's more than enough for Onana to get a great hand on it and get it, out for a corner kick. And he wasn't even able to do that. So that really set us back for a bit. But I did not expect Euro to get on the score sheet at all. But he got in at the right place at the right time to get us back into it going into half time.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you that it was kind of a slow start. The first 15 minutes was quite a difficult period, I thought, for United, kind of trying to settle into the game. Although we didn't really look like we were playing that well, we did end up kind of creating a few chances. I thought Dorgu was really good in the first half. He pulled them back for Hoyland, per man, just lacking confidence, just couldn't really strike it properly on his left foot. We had Garnacho that was looking quite lively as well at the start, pulled but one back for Bruno, got a corner off it, but that was a good effort. We had the Casemiro overhead kick. So, we were creating chances, but then, like you mentioned, that goal, like, yes, okay, you're kind of, the goalkeeper is possibly anticipating a touch from either a defender or an attacker and kind of waiting until the last minute to then make a decision of whether to go for the ball or not for those crosses. But it is poor. Like, it basically just bounces past them. And like you said, he should be able to push that around the post for a corner. And yeah, it I suppose he got that karma from talking and running his mouth before the game, and it came back to bite him. And yeah, he doesn't have the greatest track record for United, with a lot of errors. And that was kind of proven Match's point, I suppose, when that first goal went in. But were you concerned when that goal went in from a United perspective? I thought the heads would go down after that from the United team, and I was concerned about what the score might be after that 1-0.
I did fear that we were going to pretty much fold after that, because I was saying to two Newcastle fans the other day about the way we respond when we go behind, and we usually fold when the pressure really applies to us. We just don't make any form of courageous effort to go and get back into it. But this time we did, when Ugarte played a brilliant ball in for Euro to get his head on it and take it away from the goalkeeper to make it 1-1. That made me feel a whole lot better going into half time, because when Bruno Fernandes was about to take that free kick, which did lead to the goal, there was a laser pen from one of the Lyon fans that was clearly shown on camera, both from the angle of where Fernandes was taking the free kick from and the angle that was facing Fernandes on a close-up. You could clearly see there was a laser pen being used by one of the fans, and it really annoyed me so much, Niall, and I was infuriated by that. And from the moment we scored that goal, less than a minute later, it just felt to me like pure karma. Pure karma.
No, brilliant. I actually missed that, but yeah, I mean, you could tell that the atmosphere was I don't know what the word is. It was probably chaotic if you were there. I mean, they were really, really up for it, and bringing out all the dark arts with laser pens. Yeah, that's pretty rough. But yeah, like you mentioned, getting a bit of karma there. I thought it was a brilliant free kick in. I don't know why Lyon's defense were so deep. They were basically all inside, basically the penalty spot and even further in. And Bruno made a good decision to kind of play it with so much pace, not really across, just playing it into an area right at the goalkeeper, hoping for a bit of a touch. The keeper kind of flaps at it. It comes out to Ugarte, who did brilliant to kind of keep it in play. And then that was an unbelievable reaction from Yaro. I mean, it came at him so fast, but just to be able to redirect it into the bottom corner was brilliant.
And I'm very happy for him. I don't know if that's his first goal for United. It's certainly one of his first. Yeah, well, it's his first in the Europa League anyway. But either way, that was a really, really convincing performance from Euro from start to finish. Very, very, very unlucky with the goal right at the end, which we conceded. But other than that, I thought his overall performance was sensational. One of the best I've seen from him in the United shirt since he signed for us and came through from injury, because he was on the sidelines at the beginning of the season. But I think since he settled into the club, there's not really been one game where I felt really, really, really worried for him. He has put a real smile on my face, and I think going into the second leg is going to be a huge asset for us. We're going to need his experience again.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan. I thought he really grew into the game as well in the second half after he kind of had that confidence of the goal. I think the only match that he might have got caught out was Southampton with that winger. But apart from that, he kind of learned his lesson, and he's some of his last ditch tackles as well over the last few games, so kind of well timed and brave from a 19-year-old as well to kind of try that, and then him stepping into midfield as well with the ball, which is so important for us having a back three. He's really comfortable in the ball as well, so. Yeah, definitely one that I'm hoping is going to stick around for the guts of 10 years, I suppose, and become a pivotal part of our defence. But that kind of rounded out the first half. And yeah, plenty more happened in the second half, but we'll pause here for a quick break from our sponsors.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I was on mute there for about 20 seconds, so for all the listeners on YouTube watching me speak.
Do you want to go over that again, Niall?
Yeah, I think it's probably worthwhile. I was just saying, after an explosive end to the first half, unlike the explosive start to the second half of this podcast, um, the teams didn't really know what to do, whether to kind of protect that kind of draw that they gotten or actually go for the win. I thought it was quite a dull first 15, 20 minutes or so. But one thing I wanted to mention was the substitutions of Xerxes, and then also bringing on Mason Mount as well. I thought, particularly with the Mason Mount one, I'm delighted to see him back. I think the level of quality in terms of a player on the pitch, he just kind of brought that calmness. He brought the fight as well, which we'll get into. But it's just great to have a ball playing midfielder like that is so versatile to play in a lot of different positions for us. And I'm just hoping he can stay fit, because he's kind of a player you kind of forget about that we have. But when he is on top form, he's a brilliant footballer.
Yeah, and I love that about Mount, where he can actually come on and make quite somewhat of a difference. Will he start in the game against Newcastle? I do tip him to start against Newcastle, because we do need to rest some players for the second leg against Lyon. And Mason Mount has not had enough minutes, nowhere near it, in United shirt. So I would say the Newcastle game will be a great opportunity for him to make a name for himself and put himself in the pipeline for a start against Lyon in the second leg. That would be a really, really good few days for Mount if he can do that. But yeah, I was happy with the substitutions, actually. Lindelof came on and played in the middle of the back three, settling in with Matsurari to his right-hand side and Euro to his left. Mainu, I thought was good. I thought he was well composed when he came on as a sub.
Yeah.
And Xerxes, I did not expect him to come on and make that much of a difference. That came out of nowhere. And the ball in from Fernandez to Xerxes on that far post was sensational. That was one of the best crosses I've seen from Fernandez in United shirt. And Xerxes, we know he's not going to have a lot of pace, but I think Fernandez knew he had to try and play to Xerxes' strengths, and that moment was one of them.
Absolutely, and I think the substitutes linked up well there, because I think Mainu, there was kind of a loose ball that was kind of half cleared by the defender, and Mainu kind of first time headed it towards Bruno, and Bruno kind of took one touch and then an inch perfect pass, like you mentioned, to the back post. And it was strange looking at it, because it was floating in the air, and you were thinking, is there a chance he getting on the end of this? And then it looked like he didn't even want to go for it. And then it just kind of looked like it landed on his head and just went straight into the net then. And the defender, it seemed like, got a tiny little of a grazed touch off his head before it hit Xerxes. But I was delighted when it went in. Like, I was delighted for him, but then I just couldn't believe that we were actually going to be winning the game, is what I thought at the time. We had been creating a lot of chances. The game had gotten quite open as well at that stage, probably for the last 15 minutes. Both teams kind of creating chances. We had a couple of breakaway chances earlier on, with Garnacho kind of at the front of a lot of them, where maybe the final pass or the decision making or the touch kind of let him down as well. It was frustrating, but yeah, in terms of actually getting Xerxes back on the score sheet and actually being able to get a couple of goals where goals have been really, really lacking for us, it was nice to see for those couple of minutes.
I was really happy with the way we played in the last 20 minutes or so, because I wasn't convinced by the performance overall, Niall. I thought United have left somewhat on the table in what they were capable of doing, but I don't know if they were just waiting for the right moments to actually press on and actually make a difference of it. Garnacho, though, really frustrated me all evening. I know you mentioned before when he in the opening minutes, where I think there was a link-up play between him, Højlund, Fernandez and Dalot, because Dalot, I thought, played reasonably well, despite the fact that he got that booking for a really late challenge that could have been worse. But Garnacho in the second half, why didn't he play that ball to Xerxes when United were on that counter? Because Fernandez clearly wasn't ready for that ball when it came to him. But if he just laid it off for Xerxes with a rather more lazy front pass, because that was all it needed for Xerxes to get a shot away and get it on target. Yeah, I thought Garnacho had a game to forget this evening.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there was numerous examples that you could pick out as well. I mean, there was a couple of times where the ball went out to him on the right hand side, and even his second touch let him down where it was dispossessed. And then that decision making as well. I think the Bruno Xerxes 3v2 attack that they had that you mentioned, like both options were on. It's just he didn't read Bruno's run. So Bruno was running straight where Garnacho kind of played it to him as if he was going to take it onto his left foot, but Bruno had already kind of checked back inside for just a little short layoff to actually hit it with his right foot. And that's when Garnacho kind of overpasses it and passes it in front of Bruno. And you can see the frustration in Bruno's face, and they're both kind of arguing with each other as they kind of go back down the pitch again, because they're just not on the same wavelength at all. Like Bruno's just operating at a different level, and just that, whether it's a lack of confidence, whether it's a lack of quality, it's definitely a combination of both, because it is very frustrating watching him at times, because the amount of ball that he gets on, you just have no confidence that anything's going to be created from it.
Well, let's hope we can get more of that in the second leg. If we can play like that over the course of the second leg at Old Trafford, as we did in those last 20 minutes, we'll get through, Niall. Because if Xerxes gets on the end of those crosses that Bruno has put in tonight, I think Xerxes could well get another goal, under his belt for the season. And he's had a tough season, it has to be said. But I think we are seeing a little bit more input from Xerxes than we are from Højlund, because Højlund had another game to forget. I don't know who played that ball to him in the first half. It was almost like a square ball to him, where he tried to side foot it on his left foot, his favoured left foot, and it was nowhere near on target.
Yeah, that was the Dargo pullback in the first 15, 20 minutes. It's such a frustrating one, because, Højlund, we had this conversation all year basically, but Højlund starts a few games and then Xerxes makes more of an impact off the bench, and then vice versa. Xerxes starts a few games and then Højlund has more of an impact. But I mean, long term, I just don't see either of them being a long term solution for United. But at the moment, whichever one is slightly more in form, we're going to just have to go with, and hopefully we can kind of bring that form that Xerxes showed. I don't even know if it's form. He got his head on the end of a good cross from Bruno. Hopefully he can kind of carry that into the next game. But they are different types of players. But we're kind of living off scraps there in the number 9 position at the moment. But let's discuss the drama in the last 5 minutes of the game just after this quick break.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
So we think we're just about to come away with a massive win away from home, bring it back to Old Trafford. We're doing professional fouls in the middle of the pitch. We're seeing out the game. And then Lyon create this brilliant chance, a nice bit of interplay, a couple of back heels in the box, a blocked down shot, and then a shot from one of their midfielders. And of course, the main man, Onana, palms it straight to Turkey again. And brilliant little chipped finish over Onana then with his left foot. And he's an absolutely brilliant footballer as well. He's brilliant. But I mean, from a United perspective, Tom, absolutely gut-wrenching.
It was, because I initially thought that Xerxes was offside when I first saw him, but when we looked back on the replay, he clearly wasn't. It came from the shot from Mikatatsi. I think, didn't he come as a substitute in the game as well, Mikatsu? I'm just trying to look on the... No, I think he started. Lyon only made one substitution all match. Just the one sub. Yeah, the only one sub. It was Lacazette who came on for Akuaku. Akuaku, yeah. He came on for him at the time. But yeah, it was really annoying. But I don't know whether I want to blame Onana. I don't think it was as much of a howler from him as much as it was for the first half, because the ball came with so much power. I'm not sure he had enough time to really save it better than he did. But, it was what it was. He couldn't do a lot about it. And Xerxes got on the end of it, but I do agree that Xerxes looks like a really, really top player for Lyon, and then he could well be a top player, in the Premier League in the near future. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do. I'm looking at his stats actually as we speak. I want to know how old he is because he does look rather young. He's 21.
Yeah,
is Xerxes, and I think there is a great chance he can have a really successful career and a potential star in the French national side.
Definitely. I think we spoke about him before, actually, a few episodes ago when we were last on, discussing about Lyon. And I had only seen kind of clips of him. I hadn't seen him play a full match before, but he kind of is a bit of a throwback to a player that kind of just plays off the cuff, extremely technical and talented, and kind of plays the game at his own pace. Not really a system player, the classic kind of number 10 that would have just been floating around, going out to the right hand side, going into the central attacking midfield position. But he was excellent all evening. Some of his little touches, really clever decisions, got a few shots away, and then right man in the right space to be able to finish it off for Lyon. But potentially a player that could fit into one of our number 10s in the future. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be the rumours that are going around about a transfer fee for him don't seem to be extortionate. But of course, if United get involved in that conversation, you can slap on an extra 50 million, and the transfer fee for him will be through the roof. But yeah, in general, Tom, you mentioned Euro. We mentioned the impact of the subs of Menu and of Xerxes and of Mason Mount. Anyone else kind of stand out for you in terms of a good performance from a United perspective?
I thought Casemiro had a disciplined performance all the way through the evening. It was a good way where he got on the end of a near post corner, actually, because I think it was just going wide, but it almost looked like it was going in. It was early on in the second half when that happened. There was the overhead kick in the first half. I think he was just well composed. He looked rather disciplined. Didn't get involved in the brothel too much when Mount and Tagliafico had their own squabble, which I think was inevitable, given that Tagliafico had his hands all over Mount when Mount was just in the middle of no man's land. He was always going to get pulled back by someone like him. And and Mount was quite lucky actually that he only came away with a yellow because that's so easy, could have been a red.
Yeah, I mean, I felt sorry for him because, Tagliafico was squaring up to him, Mount just pushed him away. Surely that should be allowed because, I mean, if you go with your head, it's a red. So, to get him away from him, a push. But I think the referee did diffuse it well, giving a yellow card to both. But that was after a brilliant piece of play from Mount and a brilliant few minutes as well, just kind of putting his body on the line, winning some 50-50s as well and kind of getting the team up the pitch. And he has that along with being technically very good as well. So I'm really hoping, like I mentioned earlier, that he can kind of continue that form and continue that fitness, I suppose, because he's going to be a crucial player for us. But yeah, I think to be fair, there was a lot of decent performances tonight. I think Dorgu tried hard. He was a willing runner. He put in a few nice crosses. I think in general, though, there was periods in that game, and it's back to the point that you made, Tom, where you weren't convinced by that performance. I wasn't convinced by the performance either. It was moments that we played well in. There was maybe 50 or 5-10 minute spells where we kind of had a bit of sustained pressure or we created a couple of chances in a row, but never felt like we were dominating the game possession wise or pinning Lyon into the final third, etc., and having that kind of clear control of the game. There was a lot of times in the first and the second half for periods where we were kind of defending quite low, and once we did get the ball, we just kind of turned it straight over again, kind of kicking it up the pitch and hoping that the striker that was on at the time was able to hold it up. So kind of going back and reverting back to what we had seen throughout the season. So definitely no shift in terms of big performances, but I was glad that they did put themselves about, that they reacted well after going 1-0 down, because at the end of the day, this is what the season is now, is this competition.
Absolutely. And United needs to try and fix this moments system and actually play like, we are dominating possession and actually controlling the game, because that's the reason why we are not winning matches at the moment. We need to be playing in a system where we just control the game and take the game to the opposition, no matter who the opposition are. So United are kind of going on a knife edge into the second leg, but we did not need to win that game tonight. We only needed to come away with a draw, and we got it. So it's all coming down to the second leg. If we put in the performance like we did against Real Sociedad, we'll easily get through. If we play like we did in the last 20 minutes against Lyon tonight, we'll easily get through. If we play like we did in the first half an hour against Lyon, it could well end up going to extra time and we can end up going out on pens or whatever, which I don't obviously want. So it's all going to come down to the second leg. It's going to come down to who wants it more. Do Lyon want it more, or do Man United want it more? And I think, as much as we are biased, Niall, I'd probably say that United want it more.
I mean, I'd hope so. Yeah. I think with a home crowd, next week with nothing else to play for, this is every game we have in the Europa League, whether it's this one or if we get through, is a cup final basically, because you might as well play whoever you want in the league. We're not getting relegated. We're not getting into any sort of other positions. So we're just kind of floating about there in the second half of the table. So absolutely, I think it's. I was looking at that game today, and I mentioned earlier about Mount coming on and Manu coming on, and you can see the kind of quality of the player and the quality on the ball kind of increasing. It does concern me, this formation, looking at even trying to play against a team like Lyon, because we aren't controlling any of those games. And is that because of the personnel that we have, or is that because of the system where we're really struggling to dominate midfield? Because we always seem to be overloaded, and then teams kind of seem to be able to pick apart the system so easily as well. So I think Lyon got a lot of joy in the wings in the first 15-20 minutes of the game, where both Dorgu and Dalla were kind of squeezing into midfield, which meant that there was kind of that option to kick it over the top into the left and right hand corner, where Mazraoui and Yaro were quite stretched, that they had to go into an early conventional right back and left back positions. So it's going to be interesting to see how that formation develops over the next few months, and if we can adapt in time, and if we can get the right players in the right formation. But this will be a debate that we go on for going into next season as well. But it did concern me that we've been here now for the guts of 6 months, and I haven't seen this system really, really working yet. And I don't know if that's a system or if it's the players.
It's the lack of additional tools which Ruben Amorim needs to have right now, but he doesn't have it. But what we got to think is, Manu's only just come back from injury. You got Martinez, who's out injured. You've got Diallo, our star man, who's out injured. That's part of the reason why we've had to play with 2 attacking midfielders and not 2 wingers, because we just don't have the wingers, both left and right, considering that we've allowed Rashford and Antony go out on loan, and we've got Diallo that's injured. And Garnacho is our only all-out winger. Yeah. Our only recognised winger. So that's why we've had to adjust to having 2 attacking midfielders instead of 2 wingers. But that's fine, because we know that Fernandes can play well in that role, as does Mount. With Garnacho, I think that tells you a different story about the way he's been playing, especially when he's starting as opposed to being on the bench.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with him, because I don't really know if this system suits him. Like, I don't think he's. I think he needs to play hugging the touchline as a conventional left winger in a front three, and I think he's probably a bit lost as well of where to play. I don't think he's technically good enough to play in that number 10 of what they're asking him. So it is tricky trying to find a good spot for him, and you can see that it's kind of affecting him as well, because he's nearly overthinking everything he does, and that's what causes mistakes as well. At the highest level. But anyway, plenty to discuss there. We're looking forward to the second leg. As you said, we're still in it. It would be worse if that goal from Xerxes at the end was to put Lyon ahead in the tie. And there definitely were moments to be positive about. So, are you looking forward to the second leg?
I am. We just need to turn up with the right attitude and look like we really want to be winning it. If we turn up in a sort of similar fashion to how we did, maybe not against Forest or City, but if we turn up in a similar fashion to how we did against maybe the sort of Newcastle home game in December, we've got no chance. But I think this weekend's game against Newcastle is probably going to be a bit of a write-off, because we know that Newcastle are going for the Champions League anyway, and they've got nothing else to play for right now. Whereas we've got bigger fish to be frying than that game. So But if we can actually build a little bit of a foundation in the Newcastle game on Sunday, then we've got something we can work with for the second leg. But we can't afford any more injuries. That's the number one thing we can't afford, as well as suspensions.
Absolutely. All right, Tom. Thank you for joining me. That was great. We're living off the highs and lows of that match against Lyon this evening. And we'll look forward to the next one. Thanks very much.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.